It's the second races of the day or of the weekend in both Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am and the combined forces of Trofeo Pirelli, Pirelli Am and Copa Shell. This race dedicated to Copa Shell Am. These are, in some cases, our newest and least experienced drivers when it comes to racing and track driving in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We've got so many entries this weekend that the grid has been split into two, which is becoming an all too familiar scenario for this championship, which was established back in 2023, following in the footsteps of the UK series as a domestic national championship for Ferrari Challenge. Of course, it's no longer the newest series since we've now moved into Australasia as well. This is the second of 5 rounds for the season. We'll be heading to Motegi, Fuji, and a return trip to Suzuka as we head towards the finale. Quite an early conclusion to the season, with it wrapping up on the last weekend of July. But then, of course, a lot of our competitors in Ferrari Challenge Japan will also be making the pilgrimage to Finale Mondiali in October. Getting a look then to yesterday's race when we had Yi-Hang Tun starting from pole position. The Malaysian racer from the European version dealership was under early pressure from Liang Chen-Yu, who had a good start, made his way around the outside. Unfortunately, no start at all for Azuki Osaki. He had some dramas seemingly with the car. He started a lap late. The 177 car was charging all race long. That was Katsuya Hirata, who was on the move. Hirata starting further up the grid this time around. Fukui, meanwhile, in a collision. The 101 car with the 168 of Michael Ng, I believe that was. They both, unfortunately, ended up out of the race with damage. Some great fighting up and down the order. And while Yi-Hang Tun had a very big lead at one time in the race, it would come down later on. Bamboo Maeda, on the very final lap of the race, moved into the top 5 with a fairly stunning maneuver there, going through that last technical section. But Yi-Hang Tun, having given up what was quite a hefty lead earlier in the race, still had just enough cushion to take it home quite easily for European version. That was his first overall win in Ferrari Challenge Japan, given it was a Shell Am only race. Of course, also his first win in the Shell Am division, and he's got the opportunity to do it all again in this race. He's starting from pole position for race 2 at the weekend in Copa Shell Am, and when we saw him yesterday post-race in those celebrations, he was asked how did that feel, and his one-word response was tiring. Certainly he felt the pressure of the moment leading that race from the front, and he's got the driver that was applying a lot of pressure yesterday, Katsuya Hirata, alongside him for this race. So Auto Cavallino's Japanese driver Katsuya Hirata, who started a little bit further back and eventually had to settle for 3rd place in yesterday's race. Starting from the front row of the grid, I get the feeling that Hirata is going to be the danger man in this race, and Yi-Hang Tun, I suspect, having seen his lap times from yesterday, may share that opinion. It's a lot more overcast today. Remember yesterday, if you were watching along with us, that Yi-Hang Tun predicted rain for this race. We haven't got rain at the moment. There is a chance, somewhere around a 1/3 chance, 30%, of rain hitting Okayama over the course of this race, or indeed the Trofeo Pirelli, Pirelli Am and Copa Shell race that follows. But we'll keep our eyes peeled on that one. I think we may have a little bit of precipitation potentially. We do have some umbrellas up, but I think everybody, yes, on slick tyres at the moment. You can see the yellow sidewall there on the Pirelli P0 of Katsuya Hirata. But I am hearing some wheel guns as well, so is there some indecision around potentially what to do from a tyre perspective? Doesn't look like anybody's up on jacks, so I believe the field will be starting on slicks. And there are the Pirelli logos emblazoned on the car, and that could be the talk of the moment, the Pirelli tyres. Some focused eyes there. That is The 196 driver, Takshaw, who lines up third on the grid for the Cornet Shiba dealership. He'll be alongside the 193 of Liang Chenyu, who started on the front row yesterday, starts from fourth on the grid today. So he's got a little bit of work to do from P4. Koji Yamamoto and Jay rounding out the top half dozen. They're getting ready to take on this incredible circuit, the Okayama International Racing Course. In some ways, it's not too dissimilar from Suzuka, where we fired up the season last time out. It's narrow, it's technical, a lot like Suzuka, but there are a lot more slow corners and difficult traction zones to contend with. And of course, there's no crossover point either, but and indeed no corner quite like 130R. But a different challenge, and certainly a circuit that offers its own complexities, a much shorter layout than Suzuka as well. So it does make a degree of sense that they've elected to split the grids here. It would be well over 30 cars on the grid if we combined them. That's Liang Chenyu in that 193 car. His driver coach there, Yudai Uchida, standing dutifully alongside the former champion, of course, in Ferrari Challenge Japan back in 2023 and 2024. Here's an overhead view then of the Okayama circuit. 11 corners by the count on that map, and certainly we saw turn 5 proving to be a point of interest, that long run into that braking zone and the hairpin. You can see overtaking moves at turn 1 and at turn 4 as well, and indeed if you're Bamboo Maeda at the turn 8, turn 9 double hairpin complex as well. Bamboo Maeda, incidentally, may be one of the drivers to watch in this race. He's starting from P12 on the grid, and we saw him fighting for P5 throughout yesterday's race, so one would expect him to be working up into the top 5. They did qualifying 2 to set this grid this morning, and it was, as we've alluded to, Yi Hang-tun fastest once again with a 1:30.649. Katsuya Hirata with a 1:30.936. So a little bit of a deficit between them, but Yi Hang-tun proved yesterday that his one-lap pace is pretty exceptional. He did seem, however, to struggle a little bit as the race wore on. We'll see if that's the case again today. There's the temperatures, even though it's very overcast, 24 degrees Celsius in terms of air temperature, so it's still quite a warm and muggy day. Indeed, it's more humid and more windy than it was yesterday as well. So I think quite different conditions for the drivers to contend with. They may well be getting a sweat on in the cockpits of these Ferrari 296 Challenge cars. Utter rocket ships, these cars, with 700 horsepower from the 2.9-litre dehybridized V6. My favorite stat on the cars, the turbo speed, the spool speed, 180,000 RPM being put through the turbo at maximum capacity. 10% increase over the road car. So the last of the technicians and crew scrambling away from the cars. We're about ready to go racing here at Okayama. They'll begin the formation lap in just a few seconds' time. They'll be looking to get some temperature into the CCMR Plus brake discs, the carbon brakes. They'll be looking to get some temperature into the Pirelli P0 rubber. And then they'll be looking for a little bit of track space to work with running into turn 1. We saw in the Trofeo Pirelli Am and Copa Shell race yesterday that it's quite easy to run out of space, especially if someone ahead of you gets a poor start and then you have to kind of scramble to find some track space. And that's quite an easy scenario to find yourself in around this circuit. Well, they're rolling on the formation lap, and it will be Malaysian on behalf of the European version dealership, Yi Hang-tun. leading the field through this formation lap. They'll go 2 by 2, of course, just a couple of corners from the start line. And traditionally, it's been a fairly long hold from there. Of course, you see the spectacular Ferrari 849 Testarossa heading the field. Safety car for today. Yi Hang-tun and Katsuya Hirata, a spectacular front row of the grid for this race. Tak Shaw and Liang Chen-yu on row 2 of the grid. Koji Yamamoto and Jay, who was full of excitement yesterday, he lines up on row 3. Yasuhito Fukui and Lawrence Lau on row 4. Michito Hirota and Michael Ng on row 5. Row 6 of the grid, Yoshifumi Komatsu and Bamboo Maeda, who I think will be working his way up from 12th position. Hirotaka Nishida and Tetsuo Matsumoto, 13th and 14th on the grid. 15th and 16th, Asuki Ozaki and Kento Inami. And then taking up the rear of the field will be John Leo and Satoru Kako, making it an 18-car starting grid. We've seen that all 18 are there and ready to go. As we alluded to there, the Ferrari 849 Testarossa, our safety car this weekend. Fabulous looking thing in the flesh. Looked good in the press pictures, and it lives up to the hype under natural light as well. We're about ready to go racing here at Okayama. Onto the main straight they go then, under the control of Yi Hang-tun, who in turn is under the control of the man on the light switch. When will the red lights go out? When will we go racing? We will do so now. We are underway in Ferrari Challenge Japan. It's a good start from both members of the second row, as a matter of fact, but it will be Yi Hang-tun into an early lead. I think there was a mirror flying there from somebody in the pack. Was that potentially Liang Chen-yu? Certainly it's a bit dramatic around him there in 3rd, 4th, 5th position. Some 3-wide racing, but it is Tan from Hirata at the front of the field. Hirata into that 2nd place. He wanted to retain that position early on. Nishida and John Leo falling back there. Nishida, I think, has lost some places. But at the front of the field, it is Tan from Hirata, and then Liang Chen-yu in 3rd position. Tak Shaw behind him in 4th. So Liang Chen-yu, while I think he was the one that potentially shed a door mirror, he has all the same made up a position there. In fact, there was a stricken door mirror, or a door mirror missing there on this car, the 133. So it might be Lawrence Lau whose door mirror ended up in the gravel at turn 1. The Hong Kong racer. Liang Chen-yu and Tak Shaw looking close together here. Tak Shaw qualified 3rd, is down to 4th at the end of the 1st lap, and I don't think he intends to stay there for too long. What happens as well at the front between Tun and Hirata? Katsuya Hirata looked like he had the best race pace of anybody in yesterday's race. Indeed, he was the fastest driver out there in terms of 1-lap race pace by half a second yesterday. And what we saw in the Saturday race was Yi Hang-tun building himself a big lead earlier on. He was over 2 seconds clear at the end of the 1st lap, and then towards the end of the race, it seemed as though the rest of the field started to reel him in. And I wonder if we're seeing the same here, whether it's a case of Yi Hang-tun immediately asking everything of the Pirelli P0s and then maybe facing the consequences later on. Could Hirata be playing the long game here, is my question. We spoke of Bamboo Maeda potentially moving through the field from 12th on the grid. Well, he's already made up 4 spots. He's up into 8th place. So Maeda already on the charge. Conversely, the man ahead of him in 7th, Jay, has actually lost a position from his starting place of 6th, so he's got some work to do. We follow the 133 car of Lawrence Lau, who runs in 6th place. You can see there the severed door mirror on what is the passenger side of the car, although in Japan it would normally be the driver's side, but these are all left-hand drive cars. And we see the start and the field fanning out there. It's a fairly clean getaway. Lawrence Lau's mirror notwithstanding. The field using all the track space and more to make sure that they avoided contact. And already Hirata is lapping quicker than Yi Hang-tun. He's taken the gap down to 0.8 of a second. They've firmly disappeared up the road from Liang Chen-yu in 3rd position, who's 4.1 seconds off the lead at the first sector split. Takshaw is really on the afterburners right now, driving away. Will that continue with the top 2 just seemingly having the edge on everybody else? Hirata with a faster lap in this race already than what he did yesterday. Just came across the line again. He's the only driver in the 131s, a 131.7. That is searingly impressive pace. Noticing now that Jay has also lost his door mirror, so it's not 1 but 2 door mirrors down at turn 1 for a marshal to scoop up. Would make sense. They went into the corner side by side. The gap at the front down again, 0.6 of a second. While we watch this battle for 6th place between Lau and Jay, I also can't help but notice that Liang Chen-yu is under increasing scrutiny. I think Takshaw is really looking for a way by. It lost some time at turn 4. We just saw them through the shot, but they were very close together turning into the 4th corner. Bamboo Maeda, meanwhile, about 3 seconds back from these 2. What were their last laps by comparison? Maeda actually not on the same pace as Lawrence Lau and Jay, so potentially that move up from 12th to 8th might be it for Bamboo Maeda, unless he can find some lap time. Again, he might be leaving some Pirelli in the back pocket for later in the race, which I think proved to be a winning strategy for a few drivers yesterday, including himself, of course, because he was one of the late chargers. So maybe again adopting that philosophy and just waiting until he really needs to ask the best of these tyres. Of course, coming into this weekend in Copa Shell-Am, the championship leader was the former Copa Shell-Am driver Zed Falcon, who swept the 2 races at Suzuka within the Copa Shell-Am division, but he was also running for overall podium places, and somewhere between the organisers and himself it was decided that perhaps he's not a Copa Shell-Am driver anymore, Zed Falcon, and sure enough he is now in Trofeo Pirelli Am. So while he came out of the Suzuka round leading the championship, it would now be, I think, Yu Liang Chen that would lead the point standings, although Yi Hang-tun, winning the race yesterday, only scored 2 points across the weekend at Suzuka. He certainly put himself back in contention for the title as well. For now, though, in this race, Katsuya Hirata is looking menacing. Always had the feeling that Hirata would be the one to watch in this race. Starting on the front row, had to work for it a bit harder yesterday, but now he's got the opportunity to start in that favoured front row position. He's stayed in 2nd place, and well, here we are. He's right on the back of Tun. Malaysian racer being pursued by Hirata from Japan. 3 nationalities in the top 3 with Yang Chen Yu there in P3. Katsuya Hirata, who is in his debut season for Auto Cavallino. Again, all of the teams, in quotes, are in fact Ferrari dealerships from Japan. They score points for the Copa Dealer standings. Which will certainly become more and more intense as the season goes on. Rosso Scuderia at one time having really the monopoly over that, with Yudai Chida as their driver for a number of years, but the playing field a lot more open in terms of Copa Dealer. Seemingly there was a 3-way tie in those standings coming out of Suzuka. We continue to watch as Katsuya Hirata makes a mean, menacing and wide stance in the rear view mirror of Yihang Tun. It's going to be a long time to withstand the pressure here for Ang Tun. Katsuya Hirata is going to be lurking with intent, I feel, for the duration of this one. The gap at the line just under 0.7 of a second. Most it's ever been was the end of lap number 1, where it was 1.4. You see there the best lap comparison on the timing tower, and Tun's best lap has been quicker than Hirata, but it does feel like Hirata is able to deliver the pace more consistently. Although perhaps we don't have a like-for-like comparison, given that Tun is also having to drive through the mirrors and defend here. It's clear they're quite evenly matched. It's also quite clear, looking at the body language, that both drivers are pushing. We saw Hirata kind of missing the apex a little bit at turn 6, and while he feels icy cool in his on-track demeanor, I think just letting it slip a little bit that, yes, I am trying very hard. And of course, while that's happening, behind them, Liang Chen Yu and Takshaw, and then Yamamoto, Lao J, all very close together. So lots of battles out there on the circuit. In fact, Takshaw again a little bit further back than I was expecting, up against Liang Chen Yu. I think lost some time through the last couple of sectors. Bamboo Maeda's pace is still not quite as strong as those ahead, so 8th place might be all he can muster after that early flying start. Not quite able to match that top 5 possible pace that we had from the Corner Shiba driver Maeda yesterday. Oh, that's wide from Tun. Is that going to be the opportunity that Hirata needs? He's on the outside line at turn 6. That's again the outside line for turn 7. Not quite. But Yihang Tun with a slip up there, and it's given Hirata all the inspiration he needs. He's on the offensive now. I think a little bit of contact between them at the apex there. It's that slightest of slip-ups that can change the complexion of the battle. And again, we spoke about a missed apex from Hirata, maybe pointing to him pushing to his limit, and well, certainly I think that moment for Tun showing that he is pushing to his limit and almost gave away the lead as a result. Side by side here into turn 6, and Hirata could not quite hold on. The real interesting moment, I think, was at turn 5, where Tun just allowed himself to draw wide and almost lost the lead in the European version machine. Looks like Takshaw means business in the battle for third place as well. Liang Chenyu under some duress here. Still just over half the race to go. This one has flown by already. And you'd be hard-pressed to bet against any of these 4 drivers at the front to be on the podium. The head scratcher is quite in what order they'll arrive to the checkered flag. I think actually that these 2 leaders are starting to kind of hold themselves up a little bit. There's a yellow flag on the circuit, I believe. Here it is now displayed on the graphics. Will we see anybody having a moment out there? It appears to have cleared all of its own. But the point I was going to make is Liang Chenyu closing in on the top 2? Last lap would actually suggest not. He was marginally slower than both. In fact, no, those are best lap times. My apologies. The last lap times, yes, as a matter of fact, Liang Chenyu was 3/10 quicker than either of the top 2. So if they continue to fight each other hard and Takshaw plays ball behind, Liang Chenyu might make this a 4-car battle for the lead by dragging Takshaw along with it. Just 2.4 seconds between Hirata and Liang Chenyu at the moment, and we'll keep an eye on that gap as it evolves. We could be on for quite the grandstand finish here at Okayama. If Liang Chenyu can get involved in this battle as well. You can see the pressure, though, from Hirata to the Malaysian racer, turned yesterday's race winner. Has his work cut out. Meanwhile, I think there's been a moment elsewhere around the circuit, seeing some more yellow flags popping up on the timing screen, and whom is that for this time? Seems like there's a lot going on around the circuit, but we cannot take our eyes off these top four who are merging together ever more so. Hirata again on the offensive there through turn two. It's quite clear to me that Yi Hang-tun is feeling every moment of this pressure, but this is becoming a four-car battle. It's going down by about a second a lap at the moment. And Liang Chenyu is flashing the headlights saying, "I'm coming. Make room at the table." Could we have a four-way fight before long here? Oh, and that's a car off and buried in the gravel. The 1-2-2 of Ozaki off the circuit at the final corner. You can see that that thing is beached. And the safety car is out. Well, we were discussing the potential for the four to get together, and well, now it's going to happen, but everybody else is going to be bunched together with them. This could in fact be an opportunity for Yi Hang-tun to gain himself a car length or two that he's been sorely missing if he can time the restart correctly. The Ferrari 849 Testarossa on circuit to collect the field. We get a replay here of the 1-2-2. He'd already spun, and then unfortunately just becoming entrapped in the gravel. Quite easily done that, especially with a car that has traction control. You can try and spin it around and then end up rather lazily rolling into the gravel. It happens to the greats. I remember standing trackside at Brands Hatch many moons ago, and no lesser than Alex Zanardi tried to slam the throttle and do a 180 to get the car back in the right direction, and the traction control kicked in, and instead, unfortunately, the car ended up beached in the gravel in much the same way as we just saw there with Ozaki. So unfortunate, always looks a bit clumsy, but I've seen quite a high caliber of driver do that before. So this gives everybody a chance, of course, to take stock. And another replay here. This is of Hirota having a moment. We said that there were yellow flags around the circuit, and there's a moment for Hirota that almost collected Fukui as well. And we have seen some yellows, and we're now seeing some of the white. And Hirota down in 10th place. He might be able to make his way up a little further from there. He was running, what, 7th place before that, wasn't he? In fact, a little higher up than that even. No, he was in 7th. Bamboo Maeda has made up a position, so he's up into P7 now. Field idling around then, the Ferrari 296 Challenge cars. I think we'll have one more lap here under safety car. Now, Yihang Tun has traditionally been very quick out of the blocks on the first lap of the race. We saw that today. We saw it yesterday as well. I speculated whether he was maybe taking some early life out of the tyres with that. I wonder if he can do it after the tyres already have 20 minutes of racing on them. Safety car hugging the inside tightly here, showing the field where to go as the recovery continues on the outside of the final corner. We're at 2/3 distance per the clock in this race. Safety car is out, wouldn't expect it to stay out for too much longer, and given the top four were in the process of merging together, this could be a very dramatic conclusion to the race here at Okayama. One-two-two car rejoining the race then. A lap down, I think 2 laps down actually, but Asuki Ozaki will at least get to continue on in the race. He's had a fairly hindered weekend, of course, having had his delayed start to yesterday's race. We're hoping for better fortunes going forward. If you're just joining us and you're thinking this is a different looking order compared to what we had at Suzuka, well, yes, for the first time this season, we have split Copa Shell-Am, who are currently out on circuit, from the rest of the Ferrari Challenge Japan order, and that's owing to the sheer size of the Copa Shell-Am class, and indeed the sheer size of the overall grid. Left us with 2 races per day, so more action to watch, and certainly with the spotlight on Copa Shell-Am, we've had some brilliant racing. Now, is the safety car going to be in this lap? We're running out of time to extinguish those lights on top of the Testarossa. I think we might have another lap here behind safety car. In fact, are those lights out? No, they are still ablaze. So yes, one more lap behind the safety car. I guess still sweeping up some gravel around the circuit. Taking those precautions. That's another lap for Yihang Tun to go unchallenged, but it could also be another lap where he's kind of stewing in the helmet a little bit and thinking about what might come next. Sometimes these little pauses in play can be of benefit to the party under scrutiny, but I think sometimes it can go the other way, where the break of momentum, the halt, the ability for your brakes, your tyres, etc. to all cool down can definitely work against you. And while your tyres and your brakes are cooling down, your brain can do the same thing. Hirata was looking really racy in the moments before that safety car was deployed, and indeed Liang Chenyu and Tak Shaw were both arriving on the rear of the top two. Will that top four break away as one unit at the front of the field? Car 122 has been disqualified and must pit this lap. So Ozaki is not going to get to continue in this race. And indeed, the safety car is coming in this time by, so we will go back to racing. Ozaki in the 122 should also pull in, based on that previous bulletin. It looks to me like Yihang Tun is almost already underway. The safety car has started to drive away, and the field is certainly not all bunched together, and Tun may well decide to start going at racing speed from any point here, or is he going to bunch everybody up? There he goes, punches the throttle coming out of the 9th corner of this 11-corner lap, and a little bit wide there from Hirata. We are back to racing conditions then, with 5 minutes and change left to go. Everybody remains in the same order initially, but will that hold true as this goes on? I'm unconvinced. That podium was looking liable to shuffle before the safety car came out, and I see no reason to expect anything more than, or anything less than, fireworks in the remaining moments of this race. Little wide moment there from Tak Shaw in 4th place. Yamamoto under pressure from Jay as well in the battle for 5th place, and he's feeling that pressure, feels the need to go defensive there as Jay searches for a slipstream on the run down to turn number 5. There is Yamamoto taking that defensive line. Bamboo Maeda is getting involved in this as well, side by side there with Jay. Maeda, whose pace did not look comparable to the top half dozen earlier on, seemingly has woken back up here with the safety car. Top four haven't really gone together. Liang Chenyu is again, I think, having to focus on Tak Shaw behind, and that's allowed Hirata to build a slight gap. Perhaps for Yihang Tun, that's good news. He's only, and I say only in inverted commas, got Hirata to worry about. However, I think that's more than enough for the remaining 3 minutes and 15 seconds plus 1 lap of this race. Will yesterday's race winner make it a clean sweep of the Okayama weekend? Will he come under fire from Hirata? Hirata certainly once again looking aggressive, perhaps looking to the inside at some of the wrong places and costing himself a little bit of momentum, but he's clearly very eager. Spent much of yesterday's race in 3rd position trying to get around Liang Chenyu, who now runs in 3rd position. Again, you can see the different racing lines there through turns 6 and 7 between the top two. Hirata always seems to drift out that little bit wider. principle, of course, using all the circuit is typically the best way, the route of least adhesion. However, I think occasionally Hirata is simply a bit too wide, has to cost himself some corner speed as a result. But either way, a fascinating battle between the two. And there's going to be 3 more laps of racing between them as they come across the line with about 2 minutes left to go. Time is running out for Hirata to try and make a move here. You watch on as Bamboo Maeda is now coming under scrutiny from Fukui, who... And Jay looking to the inside of Yamamoto, and I thought that was guaranteed contact. Yamamoto shaved a layer of carbon fibre from the splitter of Jay, and that was Fukui, I think. In a spin further back, he's right on the apex as well, has to wait for the field to navigate him. Going the wrong way there, that's a little bit treacherous, and all stays moving just about in the gravel. That certainly could have backfired there. High risk, high reward, that strategy. But unfortunately for Fukui, his hopes of a top 10 finish have gone for a burden there. He was right on the back of Bamboo Maeda, but overcooked it on corner entry. The rear tyres crying enough. What about Takshaw as we go on to what will be the penultimate lap of this race? He's tucked underneath the rear wing of Liang Chenyu. Jay is also looking feisty for 5th and 6th. We've paired off here, 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th. And you wouldn't bet against any of the 3 pursuers getting past the pursuee. Although that said, Tun here in the race lead looks a little bit closer or a little bit further away from Hirata than he has done previously. Takshaw, conversely, is right there with Liang Chenyu, and he wants that podium desperately. The body language of the car tells the story. A very aggressive piece of wheel work going on here from Takshaw, and he's going deep into these corners as well. Can he get those couple of car lengths that he just lost back? He had to kind of avoid the rear there of Liang Chenyu at turn 5. Meanwhile, Jay still on the back of Yamamoto for P5. The monosyllabic driver pursuing Yamamoto. Only 1 more lap to go. The clock has long hit 0. So they cross the line now to begin the final lap of racing. Hirata to the inside there of Tan. Wasn't quite close enough to make that an overtaking move, but certainly a statement of intent there to begin the final lap. Can he find a way through? He's right on the rear bumper. Katsuya Hirata in the 177 car. Right there with Yi-Hung Tun, the European version dealer representative. He wants to make it 2 wins in 2 days, but Hirata isn't going to make it easy. Takshaw going for the podium here against Liang Chenyu as well. All the battles are coming to a head here on the final lap. Takshaw looking to the inside as they run down the straight, but he's not going to be alongside Liang Chenyu into turn 5. However, Liang Chenyu there does run quite wide at turn 5. They continue on in the same order. 1st and 2nd places with about a car length between them. Has it now been solidified in favour of Yi-Hung Tun? Oh, I don't know. They're very close together as they go through the turn 8 apex. Just 3 more corners to go. Can Hirata make something special happen at the front of the field? Yi-Hung Tun desperately driving through the mirrors. He's been working for this all race long. Round the final turn they go. And it will be the Malaysian racer making it 2 wins in 2 days. Yi Hang-tun has done it in Okayama. A stunning performance from the Malaysian. Hirata often looked like he had the pace advantage, but he could never find a car's width at the right moment. Liang Chen-yu, I should say, has rounded out the overall podium in 3rd there, despite immense scrutiny from Takshaw. Yamamoto beat Jay to the line as well, and Bamboo Maeda 7th ahead of Lawrence Lau, Michael Ung, and Hirota rounding out the top 10. Well, the safety car throwing up a few humdingers and a few late changes to the order as well, with Fukui having his spin, dropping down to 16th in the ultimate finishing order. And I had a niggling feeling there in the last few laps that perhaps this man, Yi Hang-tun, would be robbed in the last couple of laps. But it was not to be. 2 Copa Shell-Am wins in 2 days from the driver with the shark emblazoned on his car. One tends to associate sharks with hunting. He was consistently the hunted this weekend, but he managed to evade capture and win both races. With 2 wins in the books, he'll be right up there in the championship contention going into the remainder of the season. Of course, next up is formerly known as Twin Ring Motegi, now the Motegi Mobility Park. Which is a new destination for Ferrari Challenge Japan, and I think that will create some exciting racing, some deep braking zones at that circuit, and some nice technical sections, some nice flowing sections as well. Already been to the home of the Japanese Formula One Grand Prix, of course, the Japanese Motorcycle Grand Prix held at Motegi. So another crown jewel on the calendar for Ferrari Challenge Japan this year, but hasn't Okayama delivered us fabulous racing so far? Of course, we've still got Trofeo Pirelli, Pirelli Am and Copa Shell with their race a little bit later on. We will be staying live with you through the celebrations here for the Copa Shell-Am race, and then an interlude of probably around half an hour before we bring you live coverage of the Trofeo Pirelli, Pirelli Am and Copa Shell divisions in their race. But for now, we watch on as Yi Hang-tun, for the 2nd race in a row, gets to celebrate, and I will fall silent as he gets out of the car because these guys confer in English.
All right. Good job, man. Perfect. Good defense, good everything, good consistency.
Glowing feedback there.
GG. GG.
Once the helmet's off, we might hear some analysis from Yi Hang-tun.
Let's go!
Picture time for
Good job, man.
Yi Hang and his team.
That was a hard one. It was not very comfortable to watch.
Not very comfortable to watch. I'm sure it was worse in the cockpit. That certainly looked like a high-pressure scenario all race long. Hirata there chatting with his team after running to 2nd place. I think he'll know deep down that he had the pace for the win there, but as we heard from the European version team, Yi Hang-tun did everything right from a defensive perspective, so a well-deserved win. I believe we might have Kei Cosolino. Yes, he is. He's down there now.
All right, here we have the race 2 winner of the Shell-Am category, Yi Hang-tun. Congratulations. レース2のシェルアマの、ウィナーです。イハン・タン選手です。インタビューしていきたいと思います。Congratulations on your double victory this weekend. A perfect drive from pole position. I know you had a lot of pressure from Hirata, and you had a safety car, and you actually managed to pull the victory. すごいプレッシャーね、平田選手から感じてたと思いますが、本当に完璧なポールトゥウィンの、レースでした。Please describe me your emotions.
Of course, I'm very happy with the race win and very good drive from P2. Very stressed in front of him.
非常に後ろからねプレッシャーも感じてたけれども本当に勝ててよかったということです。Well, I'm sure you had a lot of pressure. Certain point we had a safety car, and for sure the gaps was very very close, but you managed to pull through. 途中でね本当セーフティーカーが入って非常にまたギャップがね縮まって緊張したと思いますがいかがでしたか最後。
Sorry, what's the question again?
You felt the safety car, the gap was closed, but you still managed to win. How did you cope with that?
Yeah, just happy, excited to be winning.
そうですね、もうとにかく嬉しくて勝ててよかったということです。So, next round will be in Motegi. Yeah, what are your plans for the next race? 次戦、ラウンド3にモテギに関して、についてね、意気込みをお願いします。
Practice more and yeah, be more consistent, I guess.
はい、次戦のモテギに向けてしっかり練習していきたいということです。はい、以上となります。Congratulations! Back to you.
One wonders if that's practice on the sim or days spent at Motegi in the lead up to the race day itself. Yi Hung-tun with a brilliant performance there. And interesting that his first words there indeed went to his adversary in that one, Katsuya Hirata, acknowledging the pressure that he was under there. Hirata certainly gave him a lot to think about. Drivers then are making their way up to the podium, and ceremonies will begin in just a few short moments. Just the one podium, of course, with Copa Shellam running standalone this weekend. So that'll be a nice celebration for the drivers. They'll get ample opportunity to soak in the spotlight in the Copa Shellam division. Of course, if you are just joining us, yes, unfortunately you have missed the Copa Shellam race. However, there's more to come right here on this very live stream. Trofeo Pirelli, Pirelli Am and Copa Shell having their race two at the weekend at Okayama just after this podium ceremony and a brief interlude of around half an hour.
第3位はカーナンバー193番ロッソスクーデリアリャンチェンユー選手おめでとうございます。
Top three then making their way out onto the podium. That's Liang Chenyu taking up his third position. Katsuya Hirata for P2. And here comes Yi Hung-tun, the race winner for a second consecutive day for European version, establishing himself now as a championship contender going forward this year in Copa Shellam. ディーラー代表者の方は3位表彰台の横にお願いいたします。どうぞ大きな拍手でお迎えください。続きましてジェントルマン賞の表彰です。この度ジェントルマン賞はですね、カーナンバー170番コーンズ大阪松本哲夫選手が受賞されました。どうぞお進みください。 The gentleman's subclass being represented by Tetsuo Matsumoto, who joins the podium as well. The gentleman class, I believe, for slightly older drivers. Matsumoto finishing 11th overall as we now observe the Malaysian national anthem.
見事優勝イー・ハンタン選手おめでとうございました。それではトロフィーの贈呈に参りましょう。
Time then to present the trophies to our drivers, the overall top three, and Matsumoto, the gentleman subclass winner.
それでは3位の選手からお渡しいただきましょう。3位はリャンチェンユー選手おめでとうございます。
Liang Chen-yu receiving his P3.
そして第2位平田克也選手おめでとうございます。
Hirata will be looking for wins at Motegi, I suspect. He's proven that he has the pace within the Copa Shell-Am division. But Yi Hang-sun riding high out of Okayama after a brilliant weekend and a very stressful race too in particular, had a lot of work to do. Still amused that his driver coach remarked at how stressful it was to watch, because I'm sure it was even worse in the cockpit. Tetsuya Matsumoto winning the Copa Shell-Am Gentleman Trophy. The dignitaries and the drivers now pose for pictures. You've got the European version dealer representative there in the black at the end, along with the drivers. And now, once the pictures have been taken, attention will turn to the bottles on the podium. The champagne will spray, including the day for the Copa Shell-Am division here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Shortly thereafter, focus will switch to the Trofeo Pirelli Am and Copa Shell orders as they get ready for their race. For now, champagne fight, let's go.
おめでとうございます。皆さんどうぞ大きな拍手をお送りください。第3位はリャンチェンユー選手、そして第2位は平田克也選手、そして見事優勝はイー・ハンタン選手、おめでとうございました。
Congratulations once again then to our top three, representing three different dealer groups. European versions, Tun winning the race, Auto Cavallino's Hirata in second, and Liang Chen-yu representing Rossa Scuderia from third position. Let's get a look back then at this race. Race 2 of the weekend for Copa Shell-Am, and it was Tun in the race lead in the early stages of this one, controlling things from the front of the order. A little bit of mirror loss further back in the field. Jay, one of those that lost his mirror. Indeed, a couple of them stricken on the circuit, but even from the very first flourishes of this race, it was clear that Katsuya Hirata wasn't going to let the 103 driver have it all his own way. Yi Hang-sun forced to drive through the mirrors through a lot of this race. These two were battling so hard that it felt as if it was going to become a four-car battle before long. A safety car, though, would be deployed to collect the stricken Asuki Osaki. The Ferrari 849 Testarossa assuming the race lead momentarily before handing it back to the 103. Of course, we got back together in one big group. Bamboo Maeda trying to get past Jay here in a battle for 6th position, couldn't quite get it done. On the last lap of the race, the 177 looking particularly racy up against Katsuya Hirata, or rather Katsuya Hirata looking racy against the 103 of Yi Hang-sun. But ultimately, it was 2 wins in 2 days from the Malaysian, establishing himself as a championship contender in the Copa Shell-Am division, much to the delight of his team down at European version. They will celebrate long into the evening, I'm sure. And Okayama has not seen the last of Ferrari Challenge Japan action, because we will be back in about 45 minutes' time with the Trofeo Pirelli Am and Copa Shell race. So we'll be back at what will be 2:25 local time, 2:25 p.m, 14:25 if you prefer. That's 6:25 UK time, at 7:25 in Europe. Yi Hung-tun winning the race by just 0.4 of a second over Katsuya Hirata. Liang Chen-yu in third, Takshaw fourth, Koji Yamamoto fifth, ahead of Jay, Bamboo Maeda and Lawrence Lau. Of course, the field bunched together again with that late safety car period, and we saw a lot of shuffling, or at least potential shuffling, in the battles throughout the field. Michael Ung in 9th place, Michito Hirota in 10th place, Tetsuo Matsumoto in 11th position. 17 cars total finishing the race. Asuki Ozaki, unfortunately, being taken out of proceedings with that moment in the gravel. And here are the points breakdowns critically. Liang Chen-yu still leads the championship, but just 6 back. Yi Hung-tun has really established himself as a contender. Katsuya Hirata third. Zed Falcon, who's now been promoted up to Trofeo Pirelli Am, he's effectively an invisible driver in that point standing. But have we already established our potential championship contenders in Copa Shell Am with that race? Certainly, we saw a lot of very impressive performances out of Liang Chen-yu and out of today's winner and yesterday's winner, Yi Hung-tun. Where will this championship battle go next? You'll have to continue tuning in to Ferrari Challenge Japan's Copa Shell Am division to find out, but stay with us because very shortly we'll be back racing with Trofeo Pirelli Am and the Copa Shell divisions. Our faster drivers in Ferrari Challenge Japan, the aces of Ferrari Challenge Japan, will be up next. Pirelli's bolted on. We'll be ready to go racing with them at 25 past the next hour, 6:25 UK, 7:25 Central European time, or indeed 2:25 local time for Japan here at the circuit Okayama. We hope you're ready for that one because we expect another thriller to conclude the weekend at the fabulous Okayama circuit. Always delivers action in spades, as will the following 3 destinations: Motegi, Fuji and Suzuka. A return visit there in July. And then, of course, the unofficial 6th round, as a lot of our Japanese competitors will make their way to Finale Mondiale to conclude their season in fabulous fashion. But for now, we wait with bated breath to bring you more Ferrari Challenge action as Trofeo Pirelli Am and Copa Shell take the stage next here at Okayama. Championship all compelling me. Liang Chen-yu certainly looking very good so far, looking very consistent. Will we see anyone rocket to the fore, though, against the driver in his 2nd season? Of course, with coaching from Yudai Uchida, that will go a long way as the season goes on. Let's now focus in for the next race coming soon. On a day with 4 races in Ferrari Challenge Japan, or on a weekend with 4 races in Ferrari Challenge Japan, this is the finale. It is race 2 at the weekend for Trofeo Pirelli Am and Copa Shell in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And having already seen a fabulous Copa Shell Am race, their standalone 30-minute plus 1 lap encounter earlier this morning, I get the feeling that we're in for a treat coming into this one. We've got a pole sitter in the form of Akihiro Suzuki on the front row of the grid for this race. The 3 fastest divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan. Trofeo Pirelli for the drivers considered the most potent of all. Trofeo Pirelli Am for those a little bit less experienced and maybe a little bit less seasoned in terms of what's in the trophy cabinet. And then Copa Shell for the newcomers that are getting quicker and quicker and quicker, including some Copa Shell Am graduates. Akihiro Suzuki then in this car, the number 17 Auto Speciale motor, about to get started. The Ferrari 296 Challenge car, of course, ubiquitous across the grid. 700 horsepower, 2.9 litre V6 engine, and a huge amount of downforce compared to its predecessors in Ferrari Challenge competition. By far the most advanced Ferrari Challenge car to have ever left the factory. And it'll be taking on this circuit, the Okayama International Circuit. 11 corners around this layout. It's done in under 90 seconds at the limit in these Ferrari Challenge cars. And we've seen quite a few overtaking opportunities deployed. Turn 1, the high point, or rather the low point of the circuit. At turn 4, of course, that long run down to the turn 5 hairpin. Perhaps the most inviting overtaking opportunity of all. Akihiro Suzuki with the pole time this morning in qualifying 2, a 1:29.743. However, 2 drivers within a tenth of his time in this qualifying session. Yamatatsu, the number 77 driver emanating from Trofeo Pirelli Am, second on the grid with a 1:29.777. And Yasutaka Shirasaki, a 1:29.819. So the top 3 within a tenth in qualifying. Of course, Shirasaki, yesterday's overall race winner, in addition to winning the Trofeo Pirelli Am order. And then Motohiko Isasaki will round out the 2 front rows of the grid. Isasaki, the only competition in Trofeo Pirelli this weekend for Akihiro Suzuki, so he will be very keen to outmatch Akihiro in this race. Indeed, he did outmatch and outscore Akihiro Suzuki earlier on in the weekend on Saturday after Suzuki failed to register enough laps to get a finish on the board after a collision on the first lap of the race with the driver known as Kid. So Suzuki looking for a measure of redemption in this one. The likes of Kembo and Motohiro Katani could be ones to watch as well. Naorayu in 7th position. He's alongside Zed Falcon, who was in the Copa Shell Am division when we were in Suzuka for the season opener. He's been bumped up not 1 but 2 classes to Trofeo Pirelli Am after a very successful weekend in Suzuka. So the Ferrari 849 Testarossa at the front of the field, ready to lead the cars around for the formation lap here at Okayama. We've already seen the gravel traps catch out a few. This is a very old school circuit, of course, in its former guises. It was a home of Formula One in the early mid-90s, has hosted the World Touring Car Championship, has been a consistent leading facility in Japanese motorsport ever since its foundation. And it has been a very compelling addition to the Ferrari Challenge Japan calendar over the years. Was the host of a season finale last year. It's round 2 on a 5-destination tour this season. We'll be heading to Motegi, to Fuji, and then back to Suzuka, where we started everything off for the season finale at the tail end of July, before quite a lot of these competitors make their way across to Europe to Finale Mondiali and the festivities around that event in October. Drivers then on their formation lap now. As you can see, the air temperature a little bit down from yesterday, but the humidity is way up, about 20% higher than it was 24 hours ago. And indeed, there is a little threat of weather around the venue. Akihiro Suzuki and Yamatatsu then on the front row of the grid. Yasutaka Shirasaki, yesterday's winner, alongside Motohiko Isasaki, who desperately wants to get himself onto the overall podium today. Kenbo and Motohiro Katani on row 3 of the grid. Row 4 is Naorayu and Zed Falcon. Zed Falcon, who's been on the charge since moving up to Pirelli Am. Cold Max in P9, always a great driver to watch. He's alongside Phil Kim, Yukihisa Otsuki, and the Frenchman Alex Fox on row 6 of the grid. And then taking up the rear, Michael Choi, and the driver now known as Kid aboard the number 51 car. So 14 set to take the start in Trofeo Pirelli Am and Copa Shell. Your Pirelli pole sitter is the overall pole sitter, Akihiro Suzuki. Yamatatsu, the first of the Pirelli Am drivers. And the 199 of Kenbo, the first of those in Copa Shell, starting from the third row of the grid. Rounding the penultimate corner, 2x2 formation, 30 minutes plus 1 lap of racing, an all-out sprint to the flag. Can anybody beat Akihiro Suzuki? On his day, he'd be considered the fastest driver in this category, but yesterday we saw him falter. We also saw him struggle to get the launch right as the lights went out. Can he do better from pole position this time, or can Yamatatsu potentially take advantage? We're underway, and it is a very good start from Akihiro Suzuki. He leads into the first corner quite comfortably over Yamatatsu in second, Shirasaki in third position. Everyone through the first corner cleanly. Look at that compacting situation there, 2 and 3 wide further back in the field. I think that was Naorayu who got ever so slightly pigeonholed on the outside of turn 2. But the field steaming their way through the early corners of the lap. Suzuki trying to get some heat into the Pirelli P0s here on the long run down to turn number 5. It's Suzuki from Yamatatsu, from Shirasaki, from Isasaki. And then Motohiro Katani, who started on the outside of row number 3. He's moved it up to 5th, so he's got himself past Kenbo in 6th position. And Kenbo is under pressure from Phil Kim as well. Phil Kim in the number 7 car, not wanting to stay in P7 for terribly long by the looks of the body language on that machine. The white car with black and red detailing that you see there in the mid of shot. The field heads through the final corners for the first time in this half-hour plus 1 lap race, and Suzuki with 0.6 of a second over Yamatatsu at the second sector split. It's out to just 7/10 when they cross the line. The top 3 slightly breaking away from Isasaki and Katani in 4th and 5th positions. Yamatatsu leading Pirelli Am then at the conclusion of the first lap. Kenbo quite comfortably leading Copa Shell. He's got Phil Kim and Cold Max between himself and Naorayu, who again seemed to lose a bit of time in the 110 car as the race got underway, lost a couple of positions, just found himself in the wrong place, and he's now under immense pressure actually from Alex Fox in the white car with the Fox on the side. Indeed, that top 3 does appear to be breaking away. I think Isasaki a little bit preoccupied with Katani behind. Saw earlier on in the Copa Shell Am race that took place earlier this afternoon that the race leader broke away, and then bit later in the race got reeled in as if maybe he'd taken the best out of his tyres. Akihiro Suzuki, very experienced. I doubt he's made the same errors. Suzuki with a great start to the race as well, gave himself some assurance there with a good launch and was therefore able to go completely uncontested through the first couple of corners of this circuit. A luxury he was not afforded yesterday. He was in a 3-wide situation and ended up taking to the gravel as a result. It was Yi-Hung Tun who won both races in Copa-Shell-Am, if you missed them. And of course, it was Yasutaka Shirasaki who won yesterday's race in Trofeo Pirelli Am and Copa-Shell. Akihiro Suzuki leading the way in this one. 2 decades plus in the sport of motor racing, has raced in Super GT. He's seen it all before, including changeable conditions, and that's what we seem to have on the circuit. Raindrops reported on the track per race control. The marshals will have called that one in. And that would be a big twist in the tail with all of these drivers on slick tyres. If that humidity becomes precipitation, they're going to have their work cut out for them in these 700 horsepower thoroughbred beasts. Said beasts are honed to be as driver friendly as possible, but there's a certain amount of dampness that the Pirelli P0 simply can't handle without tread in the tyre surface. For now, though, they continue on at pace. Suzuki, Yamatatsu and Shirasaki across the line. Let's see if there's any significant degradation in pace. They were knocking on 31s. 31.8 from Shirasaki. Interestingly, Suzuki is the driver who's fallen off the most there in terms of that last lap. So I think Yamatatsu and Shirasaki feeling a little bit more bold as the sprinkles of rain start to come down, the psychological rain as it's often called. As you see there, Shirasaki just set the fastest lap of the race. It's a 3-car scrap then at the front of the field. Suzuki, who, as I mentioned a lap ago, has Super GT experience, even in the top class GT 500. Revered air going up against the factory drivers. Has often raced Ferraris over the course of his career, the 48-year-old. Was a double winner at Suzuka last time out. Those were his first 2 wins in Ferrari Challenge Japan, having taken 2nd place on 3 occasions in 2025. And while he can't continue that 100% streak after the non-finish yesterday, if he can get 3 wins in 4 races, that certainly puts him in good stead for the rest of the year and the title battle against Motohiko Isasaki. Yamatatsu, meanwhile, had a class win last time out at Suzuka, came 2nd overall in the first race of the weekend on Japanese Grand Prix Saturday. Followed that up with 4th overall and I think 2nd in class in race number 2 of the weekend. Currently runs 2nd overall, but 1st among the Pirelli Am runners, but with Yasutaka Shirasaki forging quite a rapid path. We'll see how long that lasts. Shirasaki, incidentally, was 0.8 off his own personal best, his fastest lap of the race that we saw registered last time by. So he dropped off the pace. Everyone dropped off the pace a little bit there. We're yet to see the windshield wipers deployed on these cars. I'm sure they'll have a dose of Rain-X on the windscreen. Doesn't look right now like the rain is particularly heavy or particularly problematic, but we'll see if that pace continues to dwindle. You see there that wet tyres ready in case it's needed. Suzuki from Yamatatsu from Shirasaki, they're being closed in by Motohiko Isasaki. Isasaki looking quicker this lap. Let's see what their times are when they come across the line. I get the feeling that Isasaki will have put in a good lap, because he is charging towards the 3 cars that were distancing themselves from the rest of the field. And indeed, fastest lap of the race, 1:31.847 from Motohiko Isozaki. The only driver out there in the 31s. The top 3 were once again the best part of a second off of their own PBs in the high 32s. And Isozaki did a 1:31.847, as you see there on the graphic. So Isozaki is on the charge. Again, maybe Isozaki giving himself time to warm up, giving the tyres and the brakes underneath him time to warm up, and now unleashing the beast. Yamatatsu having a look to the inside of the 77, or in the 77, I should say. Of course, he's going to be in 2 minds here, because everyone wants to be the first driver to take the checkered flag, but as it stands, he'll score a full haul of points in his class in Trofeo Pirelli Am for being ahead of Yasutaka Shirasaki. I dare suggest, though, that Yamatatsu won't get the luxury of simply waiting behind Akihiro Suzuki. I think he needs to put the gold car between himself and Shirasaki to try and evade capture from the driver of the black and white machine. And what about Isozaki closing in again? I think he's made a little bit more ground on this lap. The top 4 covered by around 2 seconds. Again, as they come across the line, Isozaki quicker, 1:32.519. Only 2 or 3 tenths faster than the pack he's chasing, but that brings him just 1.7 seconds away from the race lead. Suzuki was the quickest of the top 3 on the previous lap, but you can see the pressure he's under from Yamatatsu, from Shirasaki. Yamatatsu there, maybe unwisely taking a look to the inside of Suzuki there. He was never close enough to make a move, and I think Akihiro Suzuki, again with his experience, was well aware that he was too far back, Yamatatsu. And that's cost him a little bit of time through turn 4, and he's now having to keep an eye on Shirasaki. Fine margins in it between these top 3, clearly very evenly matched indeed. Phil Kim is still yet to get past Kembo there further back in the field, the Coppershell leader remaining 6th overall. And in fact, Phil Kim has rather fallen off the back of the 199 car. He's, if anything, I think going to have to start worrying about Zed Falcon and maybe even Cold Max as this race goes on. 7th, 8th and 9th overall, 4th, 5th and 6th in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Top 4 across the line once again. Isozaki actually marginally slower than Shirasaki on that lap, but quicker than both Yamatatsu and Suzuki. Top 4 covered by 1.5 seconds at the line. Looking back here to Kidd and Michael Choi fighting it out for 13th and 14th position. That's out of character for Kidd. I would expect him to be, if anything, up here in the top 4, at least in the top half dozen. I think after some damage to that car yesterday, maybe it's not quite A1. Certainly Kidd is a driver we expect great things from. He's fought at the front of many Ferrari Challenge Japan races previously. Top 4 are now one pack. Isozaki has successfully closed in the top 3. He's running 2nd in Trofeo Pirelli, and he has to catch that man at the front of the queue, Akihiro Suzuki, to get a full haul of points in Trofeo Pirelli. But again, having missed out on an overall podium yesterday, I fear that the points mathematics are not as important to him as on-track position right now. It's bad news if you're Yasutaka Shirasaki, who seems to be ever so slightly falling into the clutches of the green and red machine right now. The leading quartet sweeping through the first couple of corners of the lap. We're already on lap 9 of this race. Already knocking on the door of half distance in this race. It must be said that Motohiro Katani is not a million miles away from this either now, in 5th overall. Could this become a 5-way scrap as the race goes on? Suzuki has consistently kept himself indeed right in the clutches of Yamatatsu and Shirasaki, but not really close enough to be attacked by Yamatatsu and Shirasaki on a consistent basis. And part of me wonders if Akihiro is simply managing the car in this early stages to pull the pin in the second half of the race. To see, is he playing a game of chess, or is he simply having a very tough day at the wheel of the 296 with 3 cars behind him? Now that I say it, it's probably the latter scenario. Either way, what a spectacle it is to see these 4 Ferrari 296 Challenge cars running at such close proximity. 1.5 seconds still between the 4 of them at the line. You see some more raindrops down there on the camera lens at turn 1. Are the conditions getting worse? They're looking a little bit more trepidatious there through turn 2, and indeed, last laps were in the high 133s. In the case of Katani, he was into the 34s, so they've all gone significantly slower, a good couple of seconds slower than their fastest laps, and that tells me that the conditions are getting a little bit more wild out there. And there is the first sign of a windscreen wiper on Suzuki's car. Suzuki also there wobbling under braking into turn 5. I think they are experiencing a slight loss of grip here as the rain continues to spit around the circuit. It was roughly a 30% chance of light rain this afternoon here at Okayama, at least per my app. Yours will say something different, because of course it will. But certainly it seems as though the pace has dropped off. We'll see what they do this time by. But certainly, just visually speaking, you can see that the drivers are competing with a lot more trepidation than they did previously. They come across the line again and they're down in the 134s even. And I tell you what, Katani is under increasing pressure from Kenbo, who has really closed up on him for 5th position. So the Copa Shell leader could be making moves here. Start to rain reported, says race control. So it's no longer drops of rain, it's a shower, they consider. Now, is there a roll of the dice here? We saw wet tyres. All of these cars centrally prepared by Ferrari experts, but within the context of the race, they're all competing against each other. So if there's a brave member of one of the teams that says now's the time to switch tyres, maybe we'll see the order shift dramatically. Katani under huge pressure from Kenbo in 5th and 6th position. That battle is getting closer and closer, although Katani has just gained himself 2 or 3 car lengths. I wonder if Kenbo may have had a moment. Indeed, you can see there the slight gap. You can also see the slippery surface flag on the exit there of turn number 7. Everyone having to approach this now with their most deft and delicate touch. Again, very advanced traction control systems and electronic stability aids on these Ferrari 296 Challenge cars, but slick tyres and wet track, always a challenge. Rain on the whole track, says race control. Last laps in the 135s, I remind you. Fastest lap was a 131.8, and we're down in the 135.5s with the fastest driver out there on circuit. Isosaki has plummeted back from Suzuki, Yamatatsu and Shirasaki. I didn't see whether that was a mistake or just him taking it easier. Just studying the timing screen intently at the moment. Yamatatsu running it deep there. Shirasaki having a look to the inside line. Sasaki increasingly now in the clutches of Katani. We'll keep an eye on that. Katani still under immense pressure from Kembo and Phil Kim, who's seemingly quite confident in these conditions. He's closed right back in on Kembo. 11.5 minutes plus 1 lap of racing to go. If it doesn't get any worse this weather, if it stabilizes in these conditions... safety car. Safety car is out. Is it? It's on my timing screen. It hasn't yet been confirmed on the graphics. There we are. Safety car is out. Now, is that to allow people to change tyres, or is that because there's a problem out on the circuit somewhere? Choi has fallen right off the pace. I don't know if he's had an incident somewhere out there. There's confirmation that the safety car has been deployed with 10.5 minutes plus 1 lap of racing to go. Now, the safety car came out just after they crossed the line. Red flag is now out. And the last laps were 1:37s, 1:38. So yeah, we're definitely at that crossover point, and safety car converted to red flag, and that makes me think that potentially they've halted this race so that everybody can get onto wet tyres and do so without any loss of time. So rather than leaving it to the teams and competitive pit stops that the teams are not necessarily prepared for, given it's a half-hour plus 1 lap sprint race, rather than putting that variable in play, it allows the drivers to simply switch to the tyre they most likely need to be on at this stage. And it means that they don't potentially drop from the lead to the back of the field with a flubbed pit stop or something like that. It's the last thing that anyone down there in the pits wants their driver to have to deal with. Again, very different ball game when you've got teams outfitted for competitive pit stops, but that's not the case here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. So I think making this change in a non-competitive environment is the way forward. Per my timing screen, all 14 cars are still rolling, so it is most certainly just a service, I think, here, or at least maybe waiting to see what the weather does, whether it goes to full wet or whether it remains greasy as it currently is. It's currently a bit of a no man's land out there. Too greasy for the slicks to be fully safe, and too dry for the wets to do anything other than overheat massively. And we do not have intermediate tyres to use here. Indeed, that is the case, of course, in most GT racing or fendered competition. You won't find intermediates, although of course in prototype racing sometimes you do. Now the field called into the pit lane, and unfortunately the driver known as Kid has not fully gained that information, so he's going to have to, I think, enter the pit lane the wrong way and head to the back of the queue. Incidentally, with missing the pit lane, Kidd is now listed as the race leader. That won't hold, of course. But you can see there the tyre trolley is being wheeled down towards the cars, and they will, I think, make their way for a tyre change, I suspect, although one assumes it's still raining. It's difficult to see. I think we are still seeing rain falling. Also, we saw Kidd there, heading towards the paddock. I think they're just trying to figure out how best to get him to the back end of the grid. I think it might be a case of parking him there and then getting him to rejoin the back as the safety car leads everyone back out there. I think that might be what they're doing. There's your leading car then, Akihiro Suzuki. The number 17 Auto Speciale Ferrari 296 Challenge car. A wave there from Akihiro Suzuki as we get a replay of what comparatively looks very sunny. This is yesterday's race, and that's how Akihiro Suzuki ended up being non-classified. Contact with Kidd. He did make it back out onto the circuit, but unfortunately he was not classified as a finisher, and this was this morning in qualifying where he went top with a very aggressive looking lap. Like he maybe surprised himself a little bit as well. Certainly a strong performance from the 48-year-old, and he will now be, as everyone will be, debating what comes next. You can hear the wheel guns going off on some. Now looking at that windscreen, are we still getting fresh raindrops? It looks like we might just be. But I'm interested that Suzuki's car is not yet getting tyres changed onto it. Could it be that he's saying, I don't think it is wet enough? That would be a bold call. We get a look back at the race start then from a little earlier on today. It was a golden launch from Akihiro Suzuki. Some 2 and 3 wide further back, the yellow-wheeled car of Natarayu unfortunately dropping back. Those top 3 broke away in the early stages. Suzuki, Yamatatsu, Shirasaki. And then Motohiko Isasaki, of course, in 4th place. He was under some pressure from Kotani and co in the early stages, but would then home in on these 3 as the conditions continued to deteriorate. And indeed, this is just before the red flag when everyone started to use their wipers as the conditions got notably worse and the lap times continued to drop. We went from 131s to, I think, 136s, 137s on the last turn around the circuit. You can now see that Akihiro Suzuki is up on the jacks, and we get a confirmation that the race will resume at 3:10, so a full 10 minutes away as everybody gets their cars switched out. There's the slick Pirelli P0 on Suzuki's car, but they've got it on jacks ready to make the change, and you can see there that on the wet tyre there is no yellow writing on the sidewall. That's always the big giveaway. Again, interests me that while a lot of the teams have immediately switched tyres, Akihiro Suzuki's on the jacks but no change to the tyres yet. I think he might be waiting it out to see what tyre he wants to be on. Yamatatsu the same, slicks still on the 77 car. And indeed, it looks like they're still on Kid's car as well. But Yasutaka Shirasaki's team in the middle of changing tyres at the moment. The brake disc exposed. There is Yasutaka Shirasaki, yesterday's overall race winner. Gained a full haul of points in his Trofeo Pirelli AM class for his troubles. Now the 17 car is down on the jacks. Did they make the tyre change? I believe they did. It'd be very interesting to get formal visual confirmation of that, whether they did indeed switch the tyres out. Yeah, there's no writing on that tread, on that sidewall. There is the tread on the tyre. Wets on Suzuki. I think everybody will be going on the wets then. Interesting situation here with 10 minutes and 28 seconds plus 1 lap to go. When the safety car rolls away with the field, Yamatatsu's still on his slicks. I think this is just a matter of procedure and getting all the wheel guns to the cars though. Surely with a red flag to change tyres, they're not going to send him back out there on slicks, are they? But hey, maybe, if that's what the driver wants. They're offered a level of autonomy, of course. I think more than a mandated tyre change period, this is kind of a, to put it bluntly, a suck it and see period to see where the weather goes and which tyres they need to combat it. I think Yamatatsu is holding on until the last moments. But now the wheel gun gets applied to the 77. They are going to make the tyre change on that car as well. Everyone, I think, will be on the wets. Interesting that Suzuki, who was off his jacks, though, is back on his jacks. Again, I think they're debating this to some extent. And yet, wheel gun getting ready. Are they switching back, I wonder? That would be a twist. Would the rest of the field react in kind? Well, higher paid and more intelligent individuals than me are having to suss this one out. Very interesting to me that Suzuki's car is back up on the jacks, though. They switched it to wets, they took it off the jacks, and now it's back up. And there was a wheel gun flirtatiously close to the center lock wheel. But no movement yet. The 3-minute board will go out at 7 minutes past, and I believe that is the point of no return in terms of making any changes to the car. So it really is now or never if anyone wants to switch one way or the other. Had some conferring there as we get ready to see the 3-minute board. It's certainly not that wet out on the circuit, is it? It's greasy. I don't know how much rainfall we've got. There hasn't been a message to declare that the rain has stopped, I don't think. Just declarations that rain was on the whole track, but we're yet to have a rain has stopped message. I don't know if one would be forthcoming even if it has. Looks like certainly Suzuki has stuck with the wets that they've installed on the car. Can still hear wheel guns though. Has there been anybody rolling the dice? There hasn't been any bulletin to suggest that everyone must be on wets. So one would assume that if someone wanted to take the risk of staying on slicks, they could. Rain lights have been declared that they must be on. Can see wet tyres on everyone in the top 3. I would assume that everybody has made the change, but will that prove to be the right decision? As again, it's just not that wet. It's not dry, I grant you. Great camera work here to see everybody's selections. The top 5 are all wet shod, as is Copa Shell leader Kenbo. Phil Kim next in the queue, P7. Those are slicks. So there is a level of autonomy afforded, and Phil Kim has decided to go the other direction from a majority of the field. Zed Falcon has gone on the wets, but Phil Kim on slicks. That could be interesting. Phil is a very quick driver. Another slick shot driver. Cold Max has gone that way as well. Phil Kim and Cold Max then both on slicks. Let's start taking notes of this, Adam. Another on slicks. That's Naorayu. Phil Kim, Cold Max and Naorayu on slicks, as is Alex Fox. This could prove to be a seismic shift in the race. In fact, a lot of drivers towards the rear have seemingly made the choice to stay on their slicks. You see there that Choi has remained on wets. Did we see that Otsuki was on wets as well? I think he was. We saw there that Kidd in the 51 car has received a post-race penalty of 60 seconds for ignoring red flags. We saw him, of course, go past the pit entry. He'll start at the back, and he'll also start knowing that he's going to have a minute taken away from his time. Of course, it will have been explained to the drivers in great detail that they are to, under red flag circumstances, enter the pit lane and park up in the fast lane during the driver's briefing. So when the driver doesn't abide by that, a penalty is really the only way forward. But I'm very intrigued. If it was me, if I was driving one of these cars, let's assume that I win a couple of lotteries. if it was me, I think I'd be going slicks. Now, I've a record of getting this stuff wrong. There's a good reason why I'm not a race strategist. But to me, this doesn't look like wet weather. At least not treaded tyre wet weather. It looks greasy, but I think I'd have gone slicks. Phil Kim, Zed Falcon, or rather Phil Kim, Cold Max, Natarayu, Alex Fox are going to be the guinea pigs to see if my way or the highway would be the better solution. Now, when conditions change prior to a race restart or a race start, there are typically 2 laps behind the safety car, and that's what I'm expecting to see here. Will we see anybody peel in at the end of this first safety car lap? And if someone does peel in, which set of drivers will do that? Will it be those on the slicks that think maybe not, or will it be those on the wets that say, actually, I'm not sure we should have changed? There was clearly hesitancy from the drivers to make the call. Suzuki on and off the jacks, on and off the wets. We do another lap behind the safety car. Will anyone peel in? You'd be giving up a lot of track position, of course. So I highly doubt that anybody would be so unconfident in their choice that they pit now. There's Cold Max, one of those on slicks. The Cold Express liveried car. Well, what single make racing lacks in variety, on this occasion, Ferrari Challenge Japan has made up for in variety of strategy. I think quite a few teams have scratched their head to the point of exposing the scalp. And 4 cars are out there on slick tyres. Phil Kim, Cold Max, Natarayu and Alex Fox are running slicks. There's Phil Kim through shot, the number 7 car. Then the Tricolor number 15. Natarayu and Alex Fox behind. Those 4 cars are on slicks. Now, will they plummet or will they go forward? As expected, safety car is in this lap. By the time the safety car has fully exited the stage, we'll have less than 6 minutes plus 1 lap to go here at Okayama. Who has made the right call? The majority call has been wet tyres. It was a hesitant majority, though. Pretty much everybody was waiting, biding their time before telling their crews what they wanted. Suzuki in the race lead was one of the very last to make the call. Phil Kim is the first of those on slicks. Is it the right decision? There he is in the number 7 car. Perhaps he will struggle at least early on to get heat in the tyres versus the treaded blocks, which typically yield more heat immediately. But will Phil Kim come firing through the order along with his other slick-shod runners? Akihiro Suzuki leading as the race resumes. Keep an eye on Phil Kim, the second white car in this queue. He certainly doesn't look like he's lacking corner speed. In fact, he's got more corner speed to my eye. Phil Kim, behind the dicing Kenbo and Katani, is looking very racy indeed, even using the curbs there. Zed Falcon is just behind him. Katani looks like the cork in the bottle here from 5th position. Cold Max to the inside there of Zed Falcon. Phil Kim to the inside of Kenbo. And look at him power past both Kenbo and Katani. Has he made the right call? Quite possibly. Certainly he's got more confidence in his slicks than the wet shod runners around him. Zed Falcon to the inside there of Katani, who really is struggling. I think Katani's got a particular lack of confidence, losing out to Cold Max, to Natarayu. He's falling through the field. Alex Fox on slicks just behind him. Phil Kim already up to 5th position. Suzuki with 4 minutes and 20 seconds plus 1 lap of racing to go. He's on wets, as is Yamatatsu, as is Shirasaki, as is Isosaki. But Phil Kim from Trofeo Pirelli Am, running 5th overall, is looking like the danger driver. They come across the line. We've got fans and supporters and family and friends cheering on. This is Cold Max to the inside of Zed Falcon. This is for 4th place in Trofeo Pirelli Am and 7th overall. And I mean, Cold Max on the slicks made Zed Falcon look like he was standing still. Here are your top 3. Suzuki, Yamatatsu and Shirasaki, and Phil Kim is through into 4th place. He's gotten around Isosaki. Where is Motohiko? He is still there, but he lost a lot of time through that first sector split. Phil Kim was the fastest driver out there on that first lap back from safety car. Isosaki has dropped massively. He's in trouble. The thing is, those wet tyres, they will lunch themselves very quickly if there's not enough precipitation on the ground to keep them cool. And I think that's what some drivers are starting to find out. Cold Max, another slick-shod driver, is on the back of Kenbo. Phil Kim has gone from 5 seconds back to 3.8 on this lap alone compared to the race leader. He's already 3rd in Trofeo Pirelli Am. He's hunting down Yamatatsu and Shirasaki. I think in a lap's time, Phil Kim is going to be intruding on that top 3 battle. In fact, look at the gap. I don't think it's going to be a lap, is it? Cold Max is under scrutiny there from Natarayu. Natarayu, who of course is closing in on Kenbo, and that would be for the Copa Shell lead. They've got Cold Max as a buffer between the two of them. Last lap times, 38s from Suzuki and Yamatatsu, a 37.9 from Shirasaki, a 35.5 from Phil Kim. Phil Kim is on the hunt. Phil Kim is going to be with the leaders and fighting for the lead in a matter of moments. There he is. Kenbo and Cold Max 5th and 6th, with Natarayu in 7th place. Look at Phil Kim going for 3rd position, though. He's passed Yasutaka Shirasaki. That's for an overall podium position. That's for a Trofeo Pirelli Am podium as well. Rather 2nd in Pirelli Am, and he's now going for the lead, looking to the inside at turn 5, thinks better of it. We've got a minute and a half plus 1 lap to go. This is the 3rd last lap of the race. They'll begin the penultimate lap this time by. Phil Kim has time to play with, and he's got better tyres underneath him. If you're just joining us, we went to red flag conditions as it started to spit with rain. Some have elected for wet tyres. Phil Kim is the first of the runners on slicks, and here he goes for 2nd place. He makes the move look easy, and Akihiro Suzuki knows that his time is upon him. Around the outside goes Phil Kim. Raindrops, though, reported on track. Could this swing the other way? Phil Kim is into the race lead. Phil Kim leads the race with 2 to go here at Okayama. Rain is being reported around the circuit, though. Could this swing back in favour of the wet weather drivers or the wet tyre drivers yet? You can see Phil Kim fighting to get some heat into the tyres. That's Phil Kim's family and friends cheering him on. Suzuki, Yamatatsu, Cold Max, Shirasaki, your top 5. Cold Max, another one of the drivers on slick tyres. He's going for an overall podium here. He's already 3rd in Trofeo Pirelli Am. He's to the inside of Yamatatsu for 3rd overall. That's 2nd in class to Cold Max. Akihiro Suzuki is managing this better than his fellow Trofeo Pirelli runner Isosaki. He's fallen way back, but here comes Cold Max to Suzuki's inside. Cold Max is through into 2nd place, and he makes it look easy. Rudimentary stuff. Well, a twist in the tail, the weather. Naorayu is now leading the way in Copa-Shell, so he's gotten past Kenbo. Look at Shirasaki falling back. Shirasaki is now outside of the top 5. This race has taken a big turn. The red flag, which I think was intended to let everybody make their decision in a non-competitive format, I think rather expecting the rain to continue to fall. And, well, it's spat occasionally around the circuit, but those who have stayed on slicks are seemingly empowered, although they're being very careful on the throttle there, it must be said. Coming through the last few corners, we've got one more lap to go here at Okayama. We've had reports still of raindrops around the circuit. Can they hold on for one more lap? Phil Kim and Coldmax running on their slicks at the front of the field. The 1-2 in Pirelli Am, the 1-2 overall. Suzuki in third, Yamatatsu fourth. Shirasaki has just moved back up to 5th place, and Phil Kim is wide. Phil Kim has allowed Coldmax into the lead. Yellow flags reported, I think, as well. But I think the weather getting worse and swaying towards the wet weather drivers once again. Coldmax on his slicks, though, avoiding a mistake that Phil Kim made there, running wide at turn 1. The conditions, I think, falling away from the slick-shod drivers here. Could Akihiro Suzuki claim back second? Maybe even his win. He's got Yamatatsu right there with him. Yamatatsu actually drawing alongside. They run side by side down to turn 5. Yamatatsu's going to claim third overall. Great driving from all parties in these treacherous conditions. We've got yellow flags somewhere around the circuit, as you can see on the graphics, as Yamatatsu and Suzuki continue to run side by side. Yamatatsu has moved up into third position. It's going to be an all Trofeo Pirelli Am overall podium. Naorayu and Kenbo in the back of shots still fighting it out for Copa-Shell honours as well. But after Phil Kim ran it deep into turn 1, just running out of front axle grip, it looks like it's going to be Coldmax. Coldmax, who is always one of the biggest celebrators, one of the biggest characters in this paddock. What a banner day it's going to be for him, a full haul of points in Trofeo Pirelli Am. But he's also going to be the first one to see the flag overall. It's Coldmax. Put the drinks on ice. It's going to be a good night this evening. Coldmax wins the day. Phil Kim takes second. And Yamatatsu rounds out the overall podium. Akihiro Suzuki down to 4th position. He'll be devastated. He was not sure what to do with the tyres. He was waiting with bated breath. And he went the wrong way. Naorayu takes 5th position, and therefore the win in Copa-Shell ahead of Kenbo and Alex Fox. They were exceedingly close together, less than a second between the three as they crossed the line. Shirasaki 8th, Zed Falcon in 9th, and Otsuki in 10th place. Motohiko Isasaki falling all the way to 11th. Choi, Katani, and eventually Kidd will complete the order. Although Kidd, I think, has stopped somewhere out on track. He might be the cause of the yellow flag, actually. Well. The Copa-Shell Am race earlier on today was pretty entertaining stuff. Kept us on the edge of our seats. But a little bit of help from the weather and a split of strategies has created one of the all-time great Ferrari Challenge Japan races. Coldmax a winner for Cornez Osaka. 2 Cornez Osaka representatives on the Pirelli Am and indeed the overall podium, with Yamatatsu also representing the Osaka dealer. Still a full haul of points for this man in Trofeo Pirelli, so while Akihiro Suzuki lost out in the overall race, he still gets his full quota of points, so I think he'll be happy enough with that. Naorayu, meanwhile, after a bitterly disappointing Suzuka, comes back with a race win in Copa-Shell. Here it's Okayama. He, Kenbo and Alex Fox were separated by just under 6/10 at the line. Kopachel went all right to the wire. So then, while I think Phil Kim can attest to the fact that maybe it started to go away from the slick drivers on the last lap, it was the slick shod drivers that won the day. Phil Kim will be bitterly disappointed with just running wide there at turn 1. Took slightly too much speed into the corner and then ended up on the painted curb on the exit of turn 1. Couldn't get the power down, and Phil watched Cold Max go through. Cold Max, always a animated figure. Always easy to tell which emotions he is going through. I think today, it's joy for Cold Max. Again, I feel for Phil Kim losing out there on the last lap, but what an inspired choice from him, from Cold Max, from Naorayu, from Alex Fox to stick with their slick tyres. All of them profited. Suzuki will be disappointed that he ultimately didn't pull that pin. He was, again, debating. Put the car on wets, then asked for it to go back on the jacks. Wasn't sure what to do. Perhaps next time he'll be encouraged to trust his gut, because I think the gut instinct was slicks, but the wiser head said wets, and it was the slicks that paid off this time. Phil Kim looked home free as he crossed the line to begin the final lap, but at the first turn ran wide, and Cold Max took the spoils. Surely one of the best drives of his career. He's won before, of course, in Ferrari Challenge. Certainly winner in Trofeo Pirelli Am before. I'm not sure about an overall win. He was second in the 2024 and 2025 Trofeo Pirelli Am standings, Cold Max. He's always quick. Has been a part of Ferrari Challenge Japan since 2018, or rather a part of Ferrari Challenge since 2018. His participation predates the Japanese series. He's always quick on the tracks that require bravery as well. The closer the barriers are, the more Cold Max seems to thrive, and on this occasion, here at Okayama, where there's quite a few barriers not too far off the circuit, and indeed lots of gravel traps, throw in some wet conditions as well, and maybe we shouldn't be surprised at how it turned out. In terms of the overall order, he was 7th and 8th at Suzuka, 3rd overall and 3rd in Pirelli Am yesterday. But now a race winner, both in the overall consideration and Trofeo Pirelli Am. That sets him up well for the rest of the season. As we know from his runner-up places in 2024 and 2025, he's pretty metronomic where it comes to getting points on the board. So if you can accentuate that with a couple of wins, this could be a championship year in Trofeo Pirelli Am for Cold Max. That's looking a long way ahead. Right now, he'll be looking ahead to spraying the champagne on the podium, something he always does well. Nimble-fingered man is Cold Max with the champagne bottle. hopefully we'll hear from him with Kei Cozzolino in the next few moments.
May I have your attention, please, from the
Here we
winner's
are.
booth here. 放送席、こちら、シェルクラスのウィナーとなります。レース2、ナオリュウ選手です。おめでとうございます。Congratulations!
ありがとうございます。
We had an amazing race today. First, starting off with slick tires, and then we had to red flag the race due to rain. Which tire did you wear for the second half to make the victory? 途中まで、ドライのレースで赤旗になって、タイヤを変えたと思うんですけど、最後優勝されましたが、どのタイヤで行かれたんですか？
僕はドライのままで行きました。スリックのままで。
So he actually went with slick tires and was able to win the race. I know it was pretty slippery out there. How did you manage to drive in such difficult conditions? スリックタイヤ、すごいハンナだったと思うんですが、かなり滑ったと思いますが、いかがでしたか？
いやもう最後は本当に危なかったですね。もうハーフスピンしながらですけど、なんとかコース外に出ないように心がけてチェックを受けました。
Yeah, he said it was really, really difficult to control the car out there, almost spinning the car, and just had to manage drift through the whole track and somehow managed to finish the race. Congratulations. So this is your first victory. 初優勝となりますが、次ラウンド3に向けて茂木です。意気込みをお願いします。For round 3 Motegi.
そうですね。鈴鹿の、第1戦第2戦が、マシントラブルでどうしても走れなかったので、今回だけはちょっと勝ちたいと思ってました。で次回、茂木も、しっかりと車に慣れ、表彰台に立ちたいと思います。
Yeah, so, he had a very unlucky race in Suzuka with some mechanical problems. He wasn't even actually able to race properly, but finally here in Okayama, he was able to make the best out of it and finally win the race. And for Motegi, he's going to do his best. Congratulations and enjoy the champagne showers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
以上です. Back to you.
Here we go. Naorayu, seemingly a little bit multilingual as well there. That was some good English at the end of that. Naorayu, the winner in the Copa Shell considerations, staying on the slicks as we saw in that brilliant shot. I must give props to the roving cameraman who got every single tyre on screen, or every single car's tyre choice on screen before they went out onto the circuit. And we knew that Naorayu was one of those who elected to stay on slicks. It paid off for him. It paid off for our overall winner as well. Cold Max to the top. Hopefully we get to hear from Cold Max. As one of the pseudonym drivers, sometimes he doesn't want the media attention, but he's such a character. I'd love to hear it. His post-race insights, if possible. We'll have to wait and see. Debriefing down there, chatting away. Those who elected for slicks will be proud as a peacock with their choices, their decision making. I think I saw that Kei Cozzolino had moved away from the Parc Ferme, so I think perhaps Naorayu is the only insight we'll get, unfortunately, from down there. We also saw Akihiro Suzuki running at full tilt because I think just got reminded that he has a trophy to pick up. Cars then idle after a dramatic race in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And we will soon see them up on the podium. Why, it's as if they heard me. We're going to go to the podium now. The top three in each class will celebrate. It'll be Trofeo Pirelli first, hence there are only 2 bottles for Motohiko Isasaki and Akihiro Suzuki.
レース2の表彰式を開始いたします。 まずはじめにトロフェオピレリクラスの表彰です。2選手を表彰台にお迎えいたしますので、皆さんどうぞ大きな拍手でお迎えください。第2位はカーナンバー55番コーンズ芝磯崎元彦選手。
Motoko Isasaki, second step of the podium, fell outside the overall top 10 on his wet tyres. He'll be disappointed with how that race panned out. Certainly ran out of confidence on the tyres as they overheated. Akihiro Suzuki, fourth overall, but winning in Trofeo Pirelli, a full haul of points for him. Isasaki managed to get a full haul yesterday. I think Motohiko will be leading Trofeo Pirelli points, but Suzuki with a critical result in their little championship battle in Trofeo Pirelli. As the team representative from Auto Speciale makes his way onto the podium. We will now observe the Japanese national anthem.
鈴木選手優勝おめでとうございました。それではトロフィーの贈呈に参ります。トロフェオピレリクラスのプレゼンターはフェラーリジャパン株式会社代表取締役社長ドナート・ロマリエッロ様です。よろしくお願いいたします。それでは2位の選手からお渡しいただきましょう。第2位磯崎元彦選手おめでとうございます。
The trophies being presented.
見事クラス優勝となりました鈴木昭弘選手おめでとうございます。そしてコッパディーラー賞はオートスペチアーレの皆さんです。おめでとうございます。ありがとうございました。それでは見事優勝を果たしました鈴木選手にはトロフェオピレリ賞が授与されます。
and Akihiro Suzuki.
ジャパンモータースポーツマネージャー五北健様です。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。トロフェオピレリ賞
The Pirelli trophy delivered to class winner in Trofeo Pirelli, Akihiro Suzuki. 2 helpings of silverware, 1 helping of champagne, but they have to wait just a little longer as the pictures now get taken.
ギャラリーの方に向かってポーズをお願いいたします。皆さんどうぞ大きな拍手をお送りください。はい、ありがとうございます。それではオフィシャルフォトカメラマンのですね、フォトグラファーの写真撮影を行いますので、はい、目の前のフォトグラファーに向かってお願いいたします。
The team, the drivers and the team representative there, joined by Donato Romaniello, the president and representative director for Ferrari Japan.
それでは参りましょう。シャンパンのご用意お願いします。シャンパンファイト。
The bigwigs of Ferrari in Asia. He's always here soaking in the great moments of Ferrari Japan, but he always makes sure not to soak in the champagne. Suzuki and Isasaki celebrate. And next up, I think it'll be the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers up there. Of course, that will also represent our overall podium in what was quite a topsy-turvy race. In fact, that's been the case both times this weekend. The Pirelli AM drivers to the fore. You see there, Kei Cozzolino. We've had great interviews from this weekend. What a valuable addition to the broadcast Mr. Cozzolino has been.
お待たせいたしました。続きましてトロフェオピレリ
More
アマクラスの表
multilingual
彰
than
と
I
な
could
り
ever
ます。
hope to
それで
be,
は
and
3選手を表彰台
a
にお
lot
迎え
more
いたしますの
knowledgeable
で、
about race
ぜひ
cars
大
while
きな
he's
拍手
at
を
it,
お送り
of
ください。
course.
第3位はカーナンバ
Leading
ー
Ferrari
77番
driver,
コーンズ大阪
former GT
山
World
田
Challenge
選
Asia
手
champion as
おめ
well.
でとうございます。
Here come the Pirelli Am podium sitters, then Yamatatsu, who of course stayed on the wets and managed to make it work well enough for third in class.
そして見事優勝を勝ち取り
Phil
ましたのは
Kim,
カーナンバ
I
ー
think,
15番コーンズ大
holding
阪
himself
コールドマックス選手
with a little
おめ
bit
でと
of
うございま
resentment
す。
with that moment at the first corner on the last lap,
大逆転
but
劇
it's
でした。
given way
そして優
to a
勝されました
Cold
コ
Max
ールドマックス選手が所
in
属されており
Trofeo
ます。
Pirelli Am.
コーンズ大阪の皆様にはコッパディーラー賞が授与されます。
Corners
ディーラー代表者
Osaka
の方は3位
representative
表
in
彰
that
台の
number
横にお願い
15
いたし
car.
ます。
Very experienced, the most experienced
お
of
め
the
でとうご
three
ざいま
quite
す。どうぞ大きな拍
comfortably
手をお
on
迎え
this
くださ
podium.
い。
And he used all of that knowledge
それではトロフェオピレリアマクラスの1位に輝きましたコールドマックス
to
選手
make
の
the
栄誉
right
をたたえ
call to
国
stay
歌を
on
放
the
送いたします
slicks.
ので皆様ご脱帽をお
He now
願いいたします。
gets to lap in the moment from the top step.
見事優勝コールドマックス選手おめでとうございました。それでは皆様に
He
トロフィーを贈呈
started
させていただきます。
9th overall at the beginning of this race, Cold Max. He'd made up some places before the red flag to
それでは3位の選手からお渡しいた
combat
だ
the
きまし
wet
ょう。
weather.
第3位は山達選手連
But
続
I
の
don't
表
think
彰
even
台
he
獲得です。おめでと
expected
うご
to
ざい
be
ます。
first overall and first in Pirelli Am.
スリックタイヤにかけて出ました。
Donato
素晴らしい走りでした。フィル・キム選手
Romaniello
第
is
2位
not
です。おめでとうござい
presenting
ま
these
す。
trophies
そ
actually.
して猛烈なオーバーテイクショーでした。コールドマッ
More
クス選手
dignitaries from
優勝お
Ferrari
めでとうございま
Japan
す。
offering up the spoils, and look
そ
at
して
Cold
コーン
Max.
ズ
That's a
大阪の
happy
皆さ
man.
ん優勝コッパディーラー賞受賞されました。おめでとうございます。
He's always the first one on the champagne bottle as well, so I think Phil Kim and Yamatatsu can expect an involuntary champagne shower here. And I suspect that Cold Max will have a wonderful evening celebrating the win, receives the Pirelli trophy as well.
それではフォトセッションを行ってまいります。
He's
プレ
gonna
ゼンタ
run
ーの
out
皆
of
さんもお
hands,
入りいた
isn't
だ
he?
きましょう。そして、ドライバーの皆さんは中央に、ちょっと固まっていただ
And
け
now
ます
we
でしょう
get
か。
together for the
ディーラー
photograph.
の方もお入りいただきます。まずは、正面のギャラリーの方に向かってフォトセッションを行っていただきます。皆さんどうぞ大きな拍手をお送りください。
Cold Max, Phil Kim and Yamatatsu, your top three. Again, you can see Phil Kim, I think almost running that run to the first corner back in his head. He'll be bitterly disappointed, but on reflection, second in class after taking that gamble, that roll of the dice to stay on the slicks is more than okay. The pictures have been taken, the trophies are down. It's time to spray the champagne for our overall top three, our Trofeo Pirelli Am top three.
おめでとうございます。いや本当にドラマチックなレース展開でした。ピレリアマクラスのドライバーの皆さんに、どうぞ大きな拍手をお送りいただきたいと思います。第3位山達選手、そして第2位フィル・キム選手、そして見事優勝コールドマックス選手、おめでとうございました。
You can hear the sheer quantity of applause there. Cold Max is a popular man in this paddock. And part of it is because, boy, does he celebrate. And a happy gentleman, if ever I've seen one. Third and last, of course, will be the Copa Shell. Top three. They had an extremely close finish. The top three separated by just under 0.6 of a second, 0.599 between them. It'll be Alex Fox out first, the Copa Shell champion from last year, or Copa Shell AM champion from last year's Ferrari Challenge Japan, this year in Copa Shell. And there is Alex Fox, P3 in class. 7th overall, just behind Kenbo, who takes 6th position. There's a Cornet Shiba 1-2, and a Natarayu branded car 1-2. Natarayu with the 110 car arrives to the top step. Great performance from all three. All three electing to make that switch to slicks at the critical moment.
それではコッパシェルクラス優勝を勝ち取りましたナオリュウ選手の栄誉をたたえ国歌を放送いたしますので皆様ご脱帽をお願いいたします。ナオリュウ選手優勝おめでとうございました。どうぞ大きな拍手をお送りください。それではトロフィーの贈呈に参ります。コッパシェルクラスのプレゼンターは岡山国際サーキット代表取締役社長秋山祐介様です。よろしくお願いいたします。それでは3位の選手からお渡しいただきましょう。第3位、The Third Place is Alex Fox. Congratulations.
Receives his P3 trophy. Really reveling in his stint in Ferrari Challenge Japan, has previously raced in Ferrari Challenge Europe before joining us last year, and I think also did some North American Ferrari Challenge races as well. And certainly taken to the Japanese scene in Ferrari Challenge very well, already a champion in Copa Shell AM, as we alluded to. But on this day, Natarayu winning in Copa Shell, much to his delight and revelry.
それではまずは正面のですねギャラリーの皆さんに向けてフォトセッションを行ってまいりましょう。皆さんどうぞ大きな拍手をお願いします。
There is your final podium of the day for Copa Shell. Natarayu, your winner in Cornet Shiba, number 110 car. What a thrilling race that was in Ferrari Challenge Japan. All three classes affected in the end by that will they, won't they, slick wet situation. I don't think there was really a correct tyre for that last few laps of the race. And there are 3 more bottles of champagne put to the best use possible.
このクラスも本当に
Alex Fox,
自分でかぶ
Kenbo,
っていますナオリオ選手
and Natarayu
本当にドラマチックなレース展
celebrating
開でし
their
た
Copa Shell honours. And Alex
それでは
Fox
3
really
選手ご
rocking
紹介
it.
しましょう第3位はアレックス・フォックス選
Natarayu
手
wins the day.
第2位ケンボー選手そして見事優勝
Great to see them enjoying themselves so much.
Congratulations
I believe we'll now, in just a few moments here, get a look back at the race that was. Interested to see how our editors have condensed that one down into highlights. There was a lot going on.
ドライとウェットが入り混じり合ったですね、レースになりましたね。本当に皆さんおめでとうございました。そして、今週末お疲れ様でございました。
For the Trofeo Pirelli Am and Copa Shell divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan. It started in the dry. It started with Akihiro Suzuki in the lead alongside Yamatatsu. As they run down to the first corner, it was dry conditions and some very rapid laps coming in the early stages of the race. Natarayu, who would ultimately win Copa Shell, was squeezed out wide there by Zed Falcon through the exit of turn 2. The top 3, Suzuki, Yamatatsu and Yasutaka Shirasaki, were getting away from the rest of the field in the early stages of the race. Motohiko Isozaki, though, would close in on them as it started to sprinkle with rain around the circuit. Initially, Isozaki had a bit more confidence, but the conditions got worse and worse. The red flags were displayed, and drivers were given the choice to go wets or slicks, and Phil Kim powering around the outside. He was on slicks. He was making his way to the front of the field. He made his way to the very front of the field, but then he went wide at turn 1 at the beginning of the final lap, and that handed the lead to Cornez Osaka's Cold Max, who won overall and won Trofeo Pirelli Am. Suzuki winning in the Trofeo Pirelli division, and Natarayu winning a Copa Shell dash to the line that was covered by just 0.6 of a second between the top 3. The most jubilant man in Japan on this day, though, was Cold Max. Trofeo Pirelli Am race winner, overall race winner. And anything but chill was Cold Max when he got onto the podium. An excited man. And just cause, great reason to celebrate after a standout drive and some great decision making to stay on those slick tyres. He won the race overall and in Pirelli Am as well. Here's the finishing order. Phil Kim, Yamatatsu rounding out Pirelli Am podium ahead of Suzuki. Then the Copa Shell top 3, Natarayu, Kenbu and Alex Fox. Shirasaki in 8th position. Behind him was Zed Falcon, who continues to make strides in Trofeo Pirelli Am, having been bumped up from Copa Shell Am following the visit to Suzuka. In 10th place was Otsuki. Isozaki only 11th, ultimately falling back at the end of the race. Michael Choi 12th, Kotani in 13th, and Kidd finishing a lap down ultimately. 14 cars in the race, and 13 of them took the flag. Kidd eventually actually didn't cross the line to take the checkered flag. What a race it has been in Ferrari Challenge Japan. The points battles will look very different coming out of this race for sure. We're actually going to get a look at the points now. Motohiko Isozaki leading the points by just 4.5, well 3.5 actually, over Akihiro Suzuki. Those half points from the shortened, curtailed red flagged race 2 at Suzuka. So Isozaki with a narrow advantage over Akihiro Suzuki. Trofeo Pirelli Am, I think, very competitive this year, and that tells the story, doesn't it? Yamatatsu leading by just 3 points over Yasutaka Shirasaki, but Cold Max and Phil Kim within a dozen points. That is going to be a season-long fight between at least those 4, I reckon, as the season goes on. Great stuff from Cold Max to move himself up to 3rd in the standings with that race win. And then, of course, Copa Shell, where I believe it'll be Kenbo, if my provisional maths. Yes. Oh, good. And by some way as well. Look at my maths go. 59.5 points for him. 40 points for Alex Fox, Natarayu, Otsuki and Choi. Your top 5 in those standings. Kembo with a fairly comfortable championship advantage, by far the most comfortable championship advantage in that Copa Shell division. Let's see how that evolves as the season goes on. Ferrari Challenge Japan action then is finished for today, but there's a lot more to come on the Ferrari YouTube channel. We've got Ferrari Challenge Europe at Mugello. They're qualifying very shortly, and then of course they go racing later on today. Mugello, one of the temples of speed in Italy, a fabulous circuit for Ferrari Challenge racing. That will be well worth watching, I'm quite sure of it. And of course, we'll be back for more Ferrari Challenge Japan next month at Motegi, 22nd through 24th of May. We'll be bringing you all of the action once again as the 4 classes of Ferrari Challenge Japan do battle. And if this quartet of races from Okayama is anything to go by, I look forward to the series debut at the Motegi Mobility Park, a great venue with lots of overtaking opportunities and interesting corner sequences. That is going to be a lot of fun to watch. We hope you've enjoyed Okayama just as much as we have here. Ferrari Challenge Japan always delivers at this circuit. We break new ground next month with all of our competitors, and we look forward to seeing you there. We look forward to seeing the championship battles evolve as well. The cars will be packed up, driven across the country, and we'll see them all again. The distinctive liveries, the multicolored delights of Ferrari Challenge Japan will be back at it at Motegi, formerly the Twin Ring Motegi. We are delighted to go back there. We've got Fuji and Suzuka, of course, to come before the end of the season. And then a lot of these drivers will make their way to Barcelona for Finale Mondiali in October as well. But that's a long way away. What's going to happen in the championship fights between then and now? We've got 3 more events to see what happens next.